What's up, everybody? Cowboy 6, or I should say 8:31 AM EST, and we are just getting data in from the CPI. That's the Consumer Price Index. That is the data that just came out right now that will push markets around. And it looks like it must have come out hot because I got knocked out of a trade that I was in. And I was in a trade that really probably should have stopped out yesterday, but it just kept staying alive because I had such a great stop loss. This thing really held on. And what a nasty trade this was. I'll have to show you all right now. But first, let's go ahead and look at the data. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. All right. Okay, so if you're looking at all those red envelopes, you can see I'm about to highlight these right here. Those are the CPI, and they came in a little hot, not too bad, more or less as expected. Just, the thing is, one tick above what's expected is actually significant because you're talking about 30% higher, right? You can't really be above without being significantly above, right? Even the smallest step higher than expected is going to be notable because you're going from 0.3 to 0.4%, and that was core CPI month over month. Year over year was just a hair over expected. Look, there's a lot of talk about how these numbers are, they can be sort of re-engineered, right? It's like, oh, well, these numbers are fake or all that. And that might be true. But here's the reality of trading. The market is going to react to these numbers as if they're real, right? Now, had I been in my trade where, my trade had been so close to stopping out, and I'm going to share that trade here in a moment, that it was almost like, there was nothing I could really do. I couldn't tighten my stops any further. So, usually if I'm in a trade and I'm trying to, protect it or whatever from a news event, then I'll tighten the stops and try to minimize the loss. But I had actually entered a trade, right? I had a double entry, right? I had a nice breakout. Okay. So let me draw a line at where I entered so I can make this a little easier for everybody to see, because it was a great trade. No doubt about it. And of course, I shared this trade with Algo Factory, and it was just a bummer. The way it went down, it just basically got stop ran. The market makers decided to stop run it. I had a nice breakout. We have this kind of higher time frame range, and price broke out above. There's a fake breakout here. This is on the euro, the EURUSD. There's a fake breakout there. And then on a lower time frame, we saw a nice breakout here, and it hit the area of interest. So basically what we're looking at is on like a swing trade time frame, we saw a nice breakout. And as a matter of fact, it closed on the hourly and the half hour. It closed above the area of interest. It closed up above this line here that was actually, let's do this. I needed price to close above the line I just drew. And it did on actually 3 candles. It closed above. So it was a great trade to take. And then I literally got stop ran. So the market makers came in and just mauled price. Now, these things can happen the day before major announcements. So this might have been just some market maker bullshit. That's what I'm chalking it up to. I know it's pretty easy to cry manipulation when your trades don't go well because you just don't want to look like a bad trader. But the reality is that, this was actually a pretty clear case of it, if you ask me, because take a look at the way price behaved right here. So, look at all these candles here. You have pullbacks all the way along here. You have natural price movement, up, down, up, down. This is on like the 5-minute chart. You can see plenty of pullbacks, price not just moving in one direction. Even on these strong moves, you still have little pullbacks in here, right? Even on the 5-minute, even on this move up, that's pretty strong. That was the breakout. You still have pullbacks, and then you have nothing but down right here. This move right here is what killed it. So price had broken out, grabbed support, was about to head up. I took my first trade right about here after it had closed, right? And it was looking fine for a minute. I think I actually took it here. And then all of a sudden you see this big move down here with these candles, and it's just no pullbacks, big strong candles. It's just nothing but sell. And this is where I think whatever was going on yesterday, whatever the plan was where the market makers decided, okay, we're gonna cram this thing down. We're not ready to let anything move up quite yet, because if you looked in the higher time frame, the dollar had actually hit a kind of a high on a higher time frame. It was actually not a bad time to look at going long against the dollar. And it's just a trade that didn't work out, and these kind of things happen when you trade. It doesn't matter how good your trade is. If the big boys want to cram price into a particular direction, you just got to take your hits and keep going. And this is something to note that, whenever you're trading around large news events, a lot of eyes are on CPI. A lot of eyes are on today's news. Just understand that. So now the trade itself was just a beauty of a trade. It was a nice breakout trade. Let me show you what that looked like, just so you can see the risk to reward. Now the original, it held through a bunch of attacks. It held through a lot of attacks. First trade was like this. It was a beauty of a trade. I was actually proud of it for holding on as long as it did. And you see here, it was like a 2.5 to 1. So price actually held. It came, it got crushed down, this big wick, that big move down, that market maker squeeze. You can see that got crushed down right here. It's hard to see on this screen, but we saw it in the low time frame, and it survived all night long. And in fact, it started to go back to entry. But again, by the time that I got to it, it was too close to. And by the way, I did a second entry that was a beautiful trade where I could put very little risk on here. I added, and I had a 9.5 to 1 risk to reward trade. I was able to add to this trade without taking very much risk. So the second trade, this was like risking basically, like this second trade right here was basically like risking, let's just say $1,000 to make $9,000. It was beautiful, and it could have very easily played out. This was a beautiful, beautiful addition trade. It just turned out that the market makers had different plans. So here we are now back into this higher time frame consolidation. So it is what it is. And we have the FOMC minutes later today. So that will also have their effect on things. So what's up, Gorilla?
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Talking about CPI.
Yeah, CPI came in.
No, you'd rather see me fly than see me die. I call all the shots.
Yes, what is that? I know that song.
It was Mace.
That's Biggie.
No,
it's Mace. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yep. P Diddler.
Yeah, Mace just kind of came and went. Like, that dude didn't do anything after that, did he?
No, he got out of there. He was trying to save his virgin rear end, I think.
Mm-hmm. He saw the diddling. He saw what Diddle was doing, and decided to be out.
He's like,
yeah, no, dude, I had a sick trade yesterday, and I got nuked, dude. Look at this. Look at this breakout, and you see that candle right there?
Yeah.
They went ahead and crushed it back down, and it was
nice.
I had a sick trade going, and it just it got nuked out. Everybody had market makers had different plans. I had to do a CPI, so I had to take my licks yesterday. Like, here's the thing about it, like when you're doing these kind of like trade, whatever, trade shows, or whenever you're like a trader doing things publicly, you're gonna find traders who never talk about their losses. They just talk about their wins, and that looks good. And you're like, oh, this guy just has so many wins, and you're like, I'm gonna follow him and all this stuff. And like, okay, if you're not seeing any losses, then you gotta be worried about it, because every single trader loses. Every single trader loses. The trick is, you develop an algorithm where, like, my algorithms win some of them 80% of the time, and then the ones with the really good risk to reward ratios will win, like, say 70% of the time. And that's great. If you can get like a 3-to-1 risk to reward ratio, where for every $100 you risk, you're making, say, $250 or $300, and you're winning 70% of the time, that's millionaire fuel. Like, just so you understand, nobody's winning all the time. And this is just one of the scenarios where I did not win. And it's unfortunate. And I'm surprised that trade, after it got knocked down yesterday, it must have been a very well-constructed trade, because it survived all night long. It was actually pretty fucking remarkable. So, but yeah, we are now towards the end of our 10-minute deal. So V, can you bring us over to the private live lab, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, guys, don't sit on the sidelines watching the world go by. Join us. Scan the QR code, click the link in the description box, and be a part of the most prolific trading community in the world. Join us or die.
Join us or die.